Okay, what's going on, everybody? The Iceman here on the Iceman V 2013 YouTube channel on this Saturday. And in this video, I want to talk about my, now I'm saying they're my top five hardcore wrestlers. In my opinion, there was plenty back in the day. A lot of them I really didn't get to see. But I'm going to talk about the five which I frequented seeing on a lot of occasions. So, my number five pick, starting off, is going to be none other than the man who created the flock, Raven, of course. Um, his name was Scott Levy. As the Raven, he was the master of the psychological warfare. Raven was as tough as they come, guys. I mean, he came with championships to prove it. The guy's done a lot of things. He was pretty great in WCW. Of course, ECW, we all know him. He's had short stints elsewhere. Uh, he really helped make the hardcore product a profitable one, you know, alongside his long-time rival, of course, who was one of my picks as well, Tommy Dreamer. And we all know that last saying of Raven, quote the Raven, nevermore. Great hardcore wrestler. He is my number five pick. Now getting to my number four pick. Speaking of Tommy Dreamer, the ECW guy, now House of Hardcore. To me, and I think everybody else believes this too, Dreamer was the heart and soul of ECW. Um, a lot of people thought he was just a glorified jobber because in ECW, pretty much, that's what he was. I think he was very underrated, but he was definitely a team player. Uh, he was always great at help putting his opponents over. He was the innovator of violence. Uh, to me, he has legendary status, and it comes from the fact that he could take more pain and physical abuse than any other performer in the history of the industry. Now, one would say, "You really think so?" Well, there are others that have taken just as much pain, and we'll get to them shortly. He had long-term feuds with Raven and the Sandman, who was another one who I didn't put in this video, but he was also another hardcore guy. But I will say this, Tommy Dreamer uh, was always hardcore, and he was a real great person in real life, but he was the heart and soul of ECW. Getting to my number three pick. Now, my number three and my number two, I could have flip-flopped, but I'm going to go with number three as Terry Funk. Terry Funk was the one who never played by the rules, man. He always established his own rules. He was a hardcore legend for over 30 years, and he was going strong in the 60s. I mean, he just was something that was like amazing. This guy did so much unbelievable crap. It was unbelievable. I mean, he could have played by the rules and become a multiple time world champion like his brother Dory, but had he done that, he wouldn't have been Terry Funk. Uh, just go back and research Terry Funk, and you'll see how great Terry Funk was as a hardcore wrestler in professional wrestling. Okay, number two, another ECW guy who I've got to see quite a bit as well. And, I think he's still wrestling periodically every now and then, and that's none other than Sabu. Actually, he's the real life nephew of the Sheik. Um, Hardcore wrestling was really in Sabu's blood. He had his own spin on hardcore wrestling, in that if you inflict punishment on your opponent by inflicting punishment on yourself, this is how he was. He'd hurt somebody, you know, but he'd hurt himself in the same way, but he'd hurt himself just to hurt somebody else. And this is the kind of guy that he was. Uh, I think he uh, broke his neck twice, but he never stopped wrestling. And, pretty much that style made him really famous. And in fact, he became even more hardcore after these injuries came about. I seen him um, in a match in early TNA days with barbed wire around the ring along with Abyss. Totally, totally awesome, awesome match. He's my number 2 pick. Now, who's my number 1? I think everybody knows it by now. None other than Mick Foley, Cactus Jack. Mick Foley just did it all. I've never seen a guy go out and do what he's done in the ring. Unbelievable. His match with Triple H at the Royal Rumble 2000 was an epic classic match. One of my favorite Rumbles of all time and one of my favorite championship matches of all time. I'll never forget when he dumped all the tacks out and he was trying to get Triple H thrown down on the tacks, but Triple H ended up slamming him onto the tacks. I mean, Foley had tacks all over his back, on his forehead. I mean, we've seen him jump off the top of a 3-story cage. He's gone through tables. Mick Foley, I mean, he lost part of his ear in a match. This man gave his body to wrestling. He really did. He didn't care. He went out there to put on a good show for us wrestling fans and to make his opponents look much better. And that's what Mick Foley did. And in my eyes, I don't think there's anybody really that comes close to Mick Foley. These top 5 guys, or top other 4 guys that I picked, are 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 in good company, or I should say Mick Foley's in good company with them. But to me, Mick Foley will always be the very best hardcore professional wrestler in professional wrestling history. This is the Iceman on this Saturday. Peace out, everybody. Give me your thoughts, give me your opinions, and we'll see what we can come up with.